going on, guys? My name is Tanner from What's Up Dog, and this is the What's Up Dog cast. I am here with Bobby from Canine Caviar. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Busy. So we're going to be talking about a lot of nutritional stuff today, from ingredient panels to types of food in general, raw, kibble, freshly cooked, canned, all that fun stuff. But also the benefits of an alkaline diet with Canine Caviar versus alkaline ingredients and other foods. There's going to be a lot to dive into, and Bobby and I have talked off of podcasts before about a lot of different stuff, and we've had a lot of good discussions about different types of dogs need different types of foods, need different types of proteins, etc. What type of dog food is the best to feed your dog, how to make that high acidic diets and things like that the most beneficial for your dog, if that's all you can feed or if that's what you prefer to feed, all the fun stuff. So we're going to kind of dive into what all that means on this podcast today and really just talk nutrition. It's going to be a lot of fun. The first question, or kind of the first segment I want to talk about is ingredient panel. The biggest, and we talked about this a little bit off podcast, and I just want to go ahead and hit it head on. The biggest thing I'm seeing right now with a lot of customers coming in from veterinary offices and things like that is their vets are telling them that peas are causing DCM and peas are causing congestive heart failure and this, that, and the other. In my opinion, and from what I've seen, certain things cause that, but they've never really proven it. Am I correct on that?
Well, yeah, there hasn't really been concrete scientific proof globally. Right, because now because of the Americas, right? America's really the only country really saying this.
Right.
So when we're looking at that, I like to dive into a lot of European science when it comes to animal nutrition. Obviously, with Canine Caviar's owner, in Europe and stuff. So, like you said, there is studies leading into that peas or legumes
in general,
cause certain things. But certain dogs are prone, Goldens, for example, right? I mean, and my problem with that study was most of those dogs that had the DCM, quote unquote, from grain-free were already Goldens.
Right.
So that, that starts to have a debatable study. That study needs to have thousands of dogs studied, not 500.
Not 100, yeah.
When you keep it in the hundreds, it needs to be studied over a life cycle of a
Tens
dog.
of thousands, really. And it should be things that are closed source, not trusting what people are saying they're feeding their dogs. I mean, some of those people could have been feeding bacon scraps on the sides and things like that, where it needs to be kind of close quarters. Somebody needs to put in the money and have, even if people just do contracts and do simple things like that, and do things to close quarters these dogs. The biggest thing, and this goes for just about every ingredient. Everything can cause your dog to itch and scratch and things like that. And we talked about this last night, was peas. There's peas in a lot of different dog foods. And there's usually it's just chickpeas or split peas like we were talking about. And the premium dog foods, a lot of the other foods have a high amount of different types of peas and legumes in general. And that's where you kind of see a big issue with skin and coat and things like that, because there's not enough of everything else. For instance, my little one, I've already noticed that she does not do well with anything to do with peas, and it's not internally or anything. She just gets dry skin, and I've tried her on 3 different dog foods now that have peas in it, even if it's a low ingredient panel or low on the ingredient panel versus high on the ingredient panel, same thing. But again, some dogs don't do well with chicken. Some dogs don't do well with beef or pork or whatever it is, and it could be based on the acidic levels and things like that. And so I kind of wanted to ask you what your opinion on was on the peas thing and the legumes thing. I just wanted to hit that one head on because that's always and I think we talked about it last night, and when we were talking about it, I wasn't talking about a heart issue or anything like that. More so skin and coat. And there's better things to add in, obviously, flaxseed, oats, millet, like you guys do the millet. I like the millet a lot.
I dig the millet.
I like the millet a lot, and so when we're looking at that, there's a lot of different things you can add in that are better for that skin and coat, in my opinion. But again, it's one of those things where some dogs may have a genetic marker that they do great with peas on skin and coat. It depends on each dog. I mean, I know dogs that have done well on things like Purina, Science Diet, and Royal Canin for 15, 16 years. When the training client I just had, fed their dog Royal Canin, the European style of Royal Canin, obviously a little bit different, for 16 years, and the dog had no issues, and died of old age. But then I've had people that have been having issues since 8 months old. They started on Royal Canin because their vet said it was the best food in the world. And then at a year old, the dog has some kind of not genetic issue, but internal medical issue. And so it's different for every dog, obviously. And so I want to talk about ingredient panel, obviously, and that's one of those things with peas. The next thing I want to talk about is potatoes. We just talked about it with them in there, my training client right before this. Potatoes, sweet potatoes versus white potatoes. I'm going to let you kind of take away on this one. What do you think? What are the big differences in the two? Amounts of potatoes and things like that obviously play a big role in it. But what do you think is the biggest difference in the two when working with kind of adding that into ingredient panels with a lot of foods?
Well, I'm going to work backwards here because I don't want to forget questions that you just asked. So let's before we get into the potato thing, let's go back into when you feed. When you have somebody dog that is on, we'll call dog foods that we don't agree with nutritionally.
I'll say the name.
I don't. Yeah, I'm in a situation where I can't say that stuff.
Right.
But in a sense of certain nutrition, which is all subjective, but there's facts in that nutrition as well. So if you feed a good genetic dog bad dog food, the dog's still going to live a long time.
Right.
It's going to have some issues along the way, but it's still going to live a pretty good, a long time. Like I had a lab when I was 2. Now this is an 80s dog, right? And 80s grocery store foods were
Gravy Train
a little
and
bit
all
better
that fun stuff
than what they are today. He lived 17 years. He had chocolate milk. He had Twizzlers. I got him when I was 2, man.
Right.
And anything and everything that I ate as a 2-year-old, on up to when I was 19, he had pizza crust, chicken wings, cooked chicken wings.
Oh wow!
We'd eat the chicken, give him the bones, all that stuff, right? All the stuff that
you're not supposed to do.
that you're not supposed to do. The dog lived a long time,
right?
But what happens when you feed a bad genetic dog bad dog food?
Right.
That's where we get these Danes, right, that are dying at 6, 8, and you're talking about 10 as a great life. Owner of Canine Caviar is a 17
longest documented, right?
Male. Yeah,
male. Longest documented male.
How did that happen? He had a good genetic dog.
Yep.
Ended up catching a disease along the way that's where Canine Caviar was born, kibble-wise. And then, the dog went and lived another 6.5 years disease-free. So
it's crazy.
So we can get these dogs living there, but we got to understand the dog, and we're in an age of rescuing now. We're not necessarily in the age anymore where people save up all the money and go out and buy a purebred. Right. So
especially little dogs.
So how do you know if you have a good genetic dog or a bad genetic dog?
Right.
And that's where the consumer will benefit financially long term when they feed good dog food.
Absolutely.
So going back to the pea thing. Again, we're the only country saying it's caused by dog food, so that's... Are we leading the way, or are we not? And then the when that study came out from the FDA, it said it
wasn't from the FDA. It was from a veterinarian.
Originally, but the FDA made a statement, right?
So there's pictures from it that's basically said it. The FDA debunked the study.
Yeah.
Years later, I think it was 3 years later. So
something
they debunked
like that. Because the original one that I wrote at the bottom of it said this is a non-conclusive. This is just what we're.
This
seeing.
is what we got told, basically, and that's what they put out on their website. Right.
So that's my issue, right? And then the vets took off with it, and hey, listen, business is business.
Yeah, and they profited.
And with. I don't want to say that vets don't understand nutrition, but I've been to a lot of vet conferences, and they do 0 classes on nutrition.
Correct. And even in from what I've seen, the best veterinarian in our area, in my opinion, she's touched all of my dogs from the time I think we started going to her when I was like 6. And she has saved multiple of my dogs. She has from allergies and different things like that. She's very, very good. But even her, she's one of the people that I believe they have Science Diet in their stuff. Has a lot of corn and wheat in it.
Yeah.
Corn and wheat has been proven by the FDA to mess with GI systems. But what counters that? Cellulose powder.
Yeah.
The fiber in it. It's ground up plant stocks. They don't have to tell you what those plants are.
Yeah.
All it is straight fiber. Is that good for your dog? Probably not for the most part, depending on what company you're getting for them. Hills and things like that. I'm sure that it's a lot better, obviously, than something like Gravy Train.
Yeah,
I don't even know if they're around
100%,
anymore.
100%.
But something like that. Obviously, it's probably going to be better ingredients, but it still has no, honestly, benefit to your dog when you could add something like what you guys add, which is kelp. Where that's a higher fiber thing, but it's something that's proven to be healthy.
Well, yeah, it's an alkalizing agent, which
Right.
is really key. But this is what I've said about veterinarian dog foods: is they're good for the issue at hand,
Right.
and I trust the medical science diet, for example, Royal Canin or Purina, more so than I would
lines.
just stuff on the shelf.
Right.
And they will fix. I shouldn't say that. They will try their best to take care of the situation at hand,
right.
and most of the time, it's good to go. Well, what happens after that? And that's
hydrolyzed proteins and things like that.
Yeah,
right.
that's where we start messing in with stuff. But look, man, I mean, there's so many dogs that benefit off that stuff. It's hard for me to say it's no good or this or that.
Yeah.
Again, it's dog by dog, but I will say this. I have a lab that did not do well. And when I joined the Canine Caviar family, man, I have a lab that doesn't shed, man.
Right.
And I mean, there's natural hair loss, which we all have, but as far as like the stuff blowing across the kitchen, you don't have those tumbleweeds anymore. But yeah, man, they put those vet diets and make them a certain way to fix those issues.
Yeah.
So, once you get off there, we don't want those issues to come back. And that's where the consumer needs to understand when to come over to a store like you that has plenty of different dog foods, that you have plenty of foods that actually can help with certain issues and prevent the thing. I heard an interesting fact, since we're talking about vet business. So the average consumer of the lifetime of the dog, and think about this when it's 12, 13 months, spends over $1,000 a year on medical stuff, not including vaccinations and the checkups and everything like that, but $1,000 a year that's what the average does. And if they just took and spent $10, $15, $20 extra a month on good dog food, they would not have to pay that $1,000
and sometimes $10,000 in cancer stuff and things like that.
That's a whole nother level,
and that's one thing I saw recently. It actually came up, funny enough, on TikTok. It was the average vet bill for a dog with cancer was, I think it was like $3,000 just to diagnose it. And I was like, whoa, because in my lifetime, I've had 8 personal dogs, and with, for instance, my 9-year-old, my Dutchie, my Dutchie Indy. I've been to the vet with her for checkups, with her vaccinations once a year since she was, born. And I haven't had to go since. But I can also name the exact foods I've given her for her entire life. And it's one of those things where a lot of people can't. When you're asking, oh, what food do you feed?
The purple bag.
Yeah, the purple bag. What company? Well, Purina. What's in it? I think it's this flavor, this flavor.
Chicken's number one ingredient. Right. Meat's first. That's all that matters.
And people don't realize that. But I can name exactly what proteins I fed my dog and things like that. The first time I ever fed my dog chicken was on Canine Caviar. Because I didn't agree with 90% of the companies sourcing of chicken. There's only one others that I really would feed my dog, or 2 others that I would feed my dog with chicken in it. And I take that back. I fed Nutrisource's chicken as well. But I know where their sourcing's coming from.
Yeah, that's another good sourcing company, right?
Exactly.
They don't play games.
60 years with no recalls, right? And so when we're looking at nutrition, you've got to look at, okay, do I want to spend $15 extra this month? Well, even Purina and Science Site and all that, it's a higher price than even Canine Caviar now.
Well, it's the rule of once you get older that you really figure out, right? You spend an extra $10-15 and it saves you hundreds or thousands in the long run.
Right. And that's why I hope to see even trainers like myself, my dad, and the 2 trainers we have here, Kendall and Grace, not just us doing it, but everybody doing it, talking about food. We had a trainer from another company come in today, and he asked me about Victor. And he was like, I'm on the High Pro, this, that, and the other, which is a great food.
Yeah.
I feed it to a lot of working dogs. But they came out with a new line. I'm like, look, this one's almost the exact same thing, but it's better. And it's the same company. And it's the same price. Go with it. And he was like, deal. And he's informing people, hey, this is what I feed my dogs. It's not this crap that I can get from the grocery store. I have high-performance dogs. He has a Malinois, a German Shepherd. Yeah. He has high-performance dogs. He needs high-performance food. Not every dog needs high-performance food. I have 2 corgis right now that I'm training. They're puppies that are on the special needs because they have allergies, chicken allergies, and they're on the special needs. And special needs is chicken.
Imagine that.
It's one of those things where it's about sourcing too. But again, ingredient panel is a really big thing. Obviously, chicken, people are scared of chicken nowadays because of all the stupid things that came out about it. Chicken itself is not bad. It's the sourcing where you get it from.
Well, yeah, but you got to understand, right? The public doesn't take the time to understand nutrition, right? So what's the easiest way to explain it and try to fix a problem? Right, chicken. And it goes back to marketing, right. So they're trying to market. They spend a lot more money buying other protein sources, right? Lamb, for example, is god awful expensive. So when they have all these other protein sources that they can push, it's easy to tell the consumer, "Hey, don't feed chicken," but they don't understand why to not feed chicken or why to feed chicken.
What makes a chicken more allergic than turkey? If you're allergic to chicken, 90% of dogs that I've met, if they're actually allergic to chicken, they won't do well on turkey. And then if they don't do well on turkey, then we switch them to a dark meat. I mean, even duck, usually they'll do good on. It's still another bird and everything.
Well, look, man, when I was a retailer and I didn't know the nutrition that I know today, it was just easier to stay away from all birds. And then what I would do is once we detoxed them and got rid of all the poultry in their diet, then we would introduce birds that are less allergenic, like the duck, like the turkey. Sometimes there's quail out there, whatever. Yeah. And then we get into the chicken, and the best thing is rotational diet, which we'll get on later. Yeah. But, we slowly put that fowl back in there. And overall, what I noticed was if it was a good company, we didn't see the issues. If it was a slightly cheaper company or a company that was going through changes with a buyout or something, sometimes
we see those, or going into big stores issues. Or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's also not even always about sourcing. It's about temperature of food too. So we'll get into that.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
And we'll get into that later on.
But just so I don't want to forget what we let off with is going back into peas and how I feel about them. I think peas are fine when there's one of them in there. I'm not big.
Or even 2.
Personally, well,
50.
Listen, I'm not big on multiple starches. I'm not big on multiple meats.
Right.
Personally, I'm not on. Nutritionally speaking, again, what led me down this whole thing was a TV show, Man Among Wolves, and then really understanding what does a wolf eat. And I truly believe that our dogs have come from there, right? And even if I didn't believe that, the anatomy is the exact same.
Right, and when you're looking at even that, like the show you're talking about, they explain what the wolves are nowadays. Versus what the dog is related to a wolf that's long extinct at this point.
Right.
That wolf ate roughly 4 to 6 times a week. Yeah. But then why is the reason they stopped surviving? The reason they're gone off the planet today? Yeah. Because they didn't have, well, the ones we have today obviously are domesticated, but they didn't have the place to go get their food anymore because habitat started going away, this, that, and the other. Yeah. That's natural change. That's human change. Sure. But then we added domestication with dogs in, and now we have to feed them what they would be eating naturally in the wild. And that brings me again back into the ingredient panel. Right. What dog is going to go eat I don't even know what to call a leaf of wheat. Whatever you call it.
But dogs don't eat fish though too, right? So they're not fishing.
No, only if they're dead and right in front of them.
Right.
And so they wash up somewhere.
It's there's so many different studies on what's this and what's that. Right. Which is all we're trying to do as nutritional people in the industry. And I can't say this for everybody. I don't like marketing ingredient panels. That are just they're attached to consumer
wants.
Yeah, it needs, right? So
I wouldn't even say needs, just wants. First 5 ingredients is what people look at rather than everything else.
If they even read 5,
right?
But yeah, just I'm big. I'm big on facts, and knowing what I know today, which we can get into a little bit later, is how does it affect the blood and the organs?
Yep.
And that's the most. There's nothing more important because
Right.
you're dying not because your dog has a chicken allergy. That dog's dying because the liver's failing and the kidneys are failing and the heart's failing. So
Yep.
how can we keep that around longer? And the wolves that we do have today, right? The average wolf in the wild lasts 13 years.
Yep.
And I mean, you're talking a giant breed dog by standards
And
with no vet care.
And you know how long the average dog, like domesticated dog, lasts? 2 to 4.
Oh shit!
2 to 4
sorry.
in the wild.
Yeah,
10 in real life. Yeah.
Oh, in the wild.
And,
I
and
can see that in the wild with our dogs.
In
yeah.
the wild, 2 to 4. And it's simply because they don't know what to look for.
Yeah.
And so we're providing for them what they need. And that's one thing I preach in training. We're providing what they need. What are we looking at now? Okay, yes, they don't eat peas. They don't eat this, that, and the other in the wild, right? They don't eat fish unless it's washed up on the shore for them. But what can we look at that point? How can we better their diet? And that's what I think that a lot of companies don't look at. They look at exactly what you're saying. Consumer wants.
That's it.
What can I see in the first 5 ingredients? Okay, there's no sugar, there's no corn, there's no wheat. Okay,
So
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
There's 3 different things that say chicken, or there's 3 different things that say beef, or whatever it is. And they go away from it.
Yeah, and what people have forgotten about is in 2007 when the last ingredient killed all those dogs and cats.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing the entire ingredient panel is very important, especially when you have smartphones in your hand. If you don't understand what it is, look it up. It's so easy. Which leads us into the potato thing.
Yep.
Okay, what is better, white potato, sweet potato, everything, because that's on the ingredient panel.
Yeah.
As
And
well.
I'll preface this: I don't feed white potatoes to my dogs.
Yeah.
Sweet potatoes I'll feed to my dogs. I mean, I actually give them snacks for
Is there a reason?
y'all.
What is your reason?
I don't feed white potatoes because of the fat content in it. That's part of the reason they can be fried so well. Is because they're kind of a fattier food, similar to white rice versus brown rice. They're the same pretty much genetically as each other, but the brown rice has slightly less fat content in it.
Yeah, it's more toxic for you. So,
well, there you go. There's that too. But there's some dog foods, for instance, that just say rice. You don't know which rice there is and stuff like that. But potatoes, they have to specify sweet potato. Am I wrong? If it's sweet potato versus potato? Okay, because they don't have to say white potato, they just have to say potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because so AFCO, when you label something in the ingredient panel.
But rice is different, right?
No, I mean, if you say brown rice, you have to say brown rice. If you say rice is white rice, right? So.
Oh, okay. So
brown rice has to be said brown.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like it's that is. And the rules have changed, but the ingredient panel used to be the only thing that was the truth on the dog food bag.
Mm-hmm.
Now the government's gotten involved, and a lot more people are held to a lot more higher standards, which is good for the industry. It's good for the consumer.
It's better for the consumer. I'll tell you that much. I mean, like I said, you look at a bag of a gravy train from Dollar General 15 years ago compared to what it was. I think they may still be in business. I don't know, but compared to what it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I looked them up and there's a big difference in the two. And it's because they actually had to start listing everything.
It's amazing when that happens.
And it's crazy because then you look at it and you're like, whoa, this is what I was feeding my dog. Because half the stuff I wouldn't even eat. Yeah. So it's one of those things.
And the rules are changing in our business, man. Even natural foods are having to be
certain words you can't say anymore. Man, organic and all this different stuff you can't say unless you're USDCA or whatever it's called.
USDA, which that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, it's nuts though.
Man. I mean, so dog by dog, right? You bodybuilder by bodybuilder, however, whatever you're trying to do with the dog. So when you're talking about what type of dog are we talking about? So if we're talking about
the average dog, the average dog in the United States is 55 pounds. Okay,
right.
So average dog, you're not looking at a small dog where if you do higher fat content, white rice, white potatoes, things like that, you're gonna really see issues. But in the average dog, 55 pounds to 75 pounds is the average dog in the United States. On the last thing I read, I don't know if that's still it or not, but around there is what I look at. But nutritional value, I'm not just talking about fats and things like that, but nutritional value, which one are you getting better out of?
I mean, sweet potato is going to be better point blank. So, but that's just, I'll get to that. But basically, when it comes down to, should I feed white potatoes? What's your dog doing? So when you're talking about, I'm going to take 25 beagles hunting today.
Right.
The white potato is not going to make a difference. They need it. Right. So when you talk about fuel and all those other things. Now we're talking about standard consumers, lap dogs, house dogs.
Right.
Pretty much what everybody has, except for a small, then you want to go sweet potato.
For longevity, right?
Longevity. Yep. It's going to work in the body. It's alkaline, which is a big thing for me. So, so it's going to be better for the dog. Right. However, if your dog is suffering from yeast intolerances, right, then you want to stay away from potatoes altogether, because the yeast content is no different.
Right, and same with rice, I believe. Right, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. We can break grains down.
And
again,
and we're gonna talk about grains too, grains versus non-grains, and everything.
In dog food, man. Again, if there's more than one starch, I will disagree with it all day long.
Right,
because again, when you're making dog food, you have to hold the kibble together, and that's what a lot of people fail to understand, like on Google. Right, is you got to hold this kibble together through the process. So do you want it flooded full of chemicals, like the Impossible Burger? Right, we don't want to kill an animal and eat beef, but we want chemicals in there that we don't know anything about, right? So, not saying that the Impossible Burger doesn't taste good. It does taste good. But the thing is you don't want to be surviving off that, because that's just terrible for you. So, same type of aspect there,
and we've seen it with treats too lately. A lot of treats that used to be quote unquote holistic and things like that we used to use for training are now adding in more ingredients to supplement other things, and then at the end of that ingredient pen, now you're seeing that soy lecithin, and then. But
we're in terrible times, and absolutely. That's the thing. Sourcing is so bad. So you're seeing a lot of companies
that were getting stuff from Ukraine decisions. And stuff.
Yeah. You're seeing a lot of companies having to make changes that. If this was 4 or 5 years ago, I would probably shame them a little bit. But now we're in a situation as manufacturers.
And I'm not shaming them at all.
No. But what I'm saying is, I don't look at them as harshly.
Absolutely.
To try to stay in business.
I won't feed their stuff to my dogs or sell it in my store anymore.
Totally agree.
But it's one of those things where you're seeing that instead of using different kind of gums and things like that in wet foods even, they're using vegetable oil because it's cheaper. But what's in vegetable oil? It's got soy.
I agree.
It's got sugar.
They're trying to keep that price point.
Exactly.
And that's the.
They're trying to help consumers, but in turn, over time, they're going to be hurting consumers.
Well, that's it. Well, that's America.
Right.
Right. So they do all these changes to. Look at the cars, man.
Yeah.
I mean, these cars aren't made to last forever anymore.
Nope.
So
you'll be lucky to get 150,000 miles out of most cars now.
They're doing everything. They're trying to keep price down because it's hard to get sourcing. Right. Now, when the world changes back and we can get everything that we want at a better level and everything like that, and world goes back to normal, hopefully.
We'll pull a lot more brands that we drop.
In the sense of sourcing, not
right. If companies go back to their original morals of no corn, wheat, soy, we'll pull in a lot more of the places that we used to have. We used to have a lot of companies that we dropped during COVID because of this exact thing.
And the thing is there's good corn out there, but
for dogs,
you can't get it.
And not only that, is for dogs, and they've done the studies on corn even. Corn can be a great protein.
It's awesome,
but the problem is not very many things in the world can digest corn. And so when you grind it up into and this is what I tell people a lot, and this is the first question I ask when they're on something that's a cheaper food or even a food from PetSmart and things like that. And basically, how much does your dog poop?
Right.
And then they give me their food, and I'm like, okay, let's see what the first 5 ingredients are.
Yeah.
Third one's corn. You know how they have to get that corn is they don't leave whole kernels in there where they can digest some of it, whatever. Yeah. They grind it up. Yeah. Well, dogs are hypersensitive versions of us. We can't digest very much of corn at all. And so when you're looking at dogs who have a hypersensitive digestive tract, you really think they can? And they've proven that they can only digest a certain portion of it if it's coming from the right place. Yeah. Genetically modified things, they can't really digest.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
I mean, it depends on the GMO, what the GMO is there for. But I will tell you that the corn in bulk that you're getting nowadays isn't what it was even 20 years ago, let alone what it used to be back in the day. And unfortunately, corn has evolved into something that is tough, and they have to bust it down into meal because meal digests better for animals. Right. So even the meat.
But then look at how much they're pooping. And almost every single time you take them off of something like that.
Yeah,
and you remove that, and then they poop less.
Yeah, they definitely, the stool is a lot, much greater. in there. But corn, corn used to have great benefit with omegas and stuff. And,
exactly. Their omegas and everything. Skin and coat sometimes can be, but nowadays when you look at it, what's the number one cause of skin and coat issues? Corn. Yeah. When it used to be amazing.
Well, yeah, but people tell them chicken, right? So they leave corn in and go to something else and they have the same problem. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, man, it again, it's dog by dog. But what we see, because I see it too, and when I was in retail, I mean, those foods that have it, the probability that the dog lives a long time and has minimal vet problems, vet visits. I mean, it's so minimal. I don't know if it's still this way today, but 70% of the people buy their stuff from the grocery store, man.
I don't think that is anymore. So I guess if they're counting PetSmart as a grocery store, yes.
Nah, that's the pet specialty.
So that's what I thought. Yeah. So most of it, I want to say, I saw a study the other day that said most dog food is either bought at a big chain store or on online.
Well, yeah, online. Yeah, that's a whole.
Whether that be from Amazon, Chewy, or one of the special retailers, even that you guys go with.
Yeah.
It's mostly bought because of convenience, obviously. But since COVID, we've seen a boost in sales because people are starting to look at how can I make myself healthier, and then they start looking at all this stuff that's not good for your body, and then.
And these big websites, I can't tell you how many customer phone calls that I get. I don't want to name them because our stuff's on it, but the bigger ones, man. I mean, customers call us and the food, the dates are off. I mean, when we make dog food, it's kibble lasts 18 months, right? When we make it, and they're getting it with 6 months left, 4 months left, paying full price for it, and I'm not saying that these guys aren't getting fresh food, but you can't bank on them like the retailers. The retailers need every cent, where a lot of these big guys, I mean, it's dog food, right? They're not making much money anyway online.
We have working dogs, so we just, anything that's starting to go out, we go to our working dogs.
But, with shipping prices the way they are now, I mean, like, I know the margins of a lot of these online people. Yeah. They're not, if they're making $5 a bag, they're happy.
Right.
Because they can't even make that once shipping is.
I mean, even our boutique kind of stores like us, the brick and mortar stores, it's not about selling a bunch of dog food. It's
well, if you only sold dog food and you didn't have all your services, you'd be out of business.
Especially
yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. and so it's one of those things where now we want, and my dad explained this before was, and he explained it on the Square Pet podcast, is we want it so that when my dad is selling people dog food, we're selling people dog food to have happy, healthy dogs. Yeah. That when me and Corey take over the company eventually, that we'll still see these customers in there.
That's what you want, right?
And that's exactly what I want with my dogs. My dog's 9 years old, almost 9.5 now. And she's jumping over a fence when I ask her to. That's 7 feet tall. And I solely, and yes, there's genetics that play into that. She has very good genetics. But I solely put that, besides genetics, on the food I fed her. Yeah. I fed her 5 brands her entire life. From start to finish, her entire life. Actually, technically 4, because I actually fed Nutrisource when she was a puppy. Okay. So it was Nutrisource, Victor, Signature. I guess Element's technically a brand, but it's Nutrisource. Yeah. And then Canine Caviar, and that's it. And I've kind of bounced beyond those, or not bounced beyond those. I've just really just gone in between those 5 brands the entire time she's been alive. And you've seen her; she doesn't look 9 years old.
No, and they're all good brands of food, man.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's
good ingredient
really
panels. That's where we're going back to. It's all about ingredient panels.
But what is a good ingredient panel? How do you teach your consumer what is a good ingredient panel without making them feel like they've done the wrong things when they come in?
Here's what I'm not afraid to do is tell people they're doing the wrong thing when it comes to their dogs. And I'm a trainer that and I'll tell people this straight to their face, an evaluation, 2-hour evaluation, they're paying $300 for, almost $300. What are you feeding? They'll tell me, okay, well, let's get them off that. And then they go wide-eyed, and they get white as a ghost. And I'm like, what's going on? Why are you thinking? Well, the breeder told me, as a breeder, we've been approached by these giant companies. Yeah. And we're getting food. We're being offered food for
free,
pretty much. Yeah. Free. And you're like, how are you making money off of this when you're selling it for $85 a bag in PetSmart?
Because you're pushing it to 8 to 12.
But not only that, is that Because it doesn't cost them shit to make.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at that, again, you actually just explained this to my training clients. Cost per cup of dog food.
Yeah, man.
Cost per pound of dog food.
No one looks at it.
No one looks at it. I had the first customer ever 2 weeks ago look at it with me. And we looked at it and broke it down. And she was like, whoa.
Price per feeding's huge, man. And you know, people go in and they're trained to just say, oh, okay, this is $80.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll never buy a $90 bag of dog food. But they don't realize, just like us, right? Our you know, we do the military show, what we talk about, like the HIT show, right? So a police officer comes up to us and says he's doing 6 cups a day for his police dog, Purina Pro Plan Sport.
That's a high protein, high fat, too.
High protein, high fats for the working dog. And he's paying $80 for it.
Yeah.
Right? 38-pound bag or something like that, I think he said. And ours is $87.99. And 22 pounds. And when he fed ours, he had to buy a second bag of Purina before he got through our 22-pound bag.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the key point of it too. I mean, even with the higher boutique food like I love Signature and I love Victor.
Yeah.
Well, certain lines of Victor I like a lot. And even Nutrisource. I love Nutrisource. I've been a big fan of their. I mean, there's the first food we ever brought in with Wild Calling, which is no longer a thing.
Oh, man, I love Wild Calling.
I know. But Nutrisource is one of those things where it's been around forever. No one knew about it.
Solid.
And it's so good. But it's one of those things where, exactly what you just asked before, what is a good ingredient panel to me? One, does it have the protein content that I need? Does it have the fat content that I need? Okay, looking at all the extra added crap that's in dog foods, does it have too much of that? No? All right. Does it have the healthy ingredients? And then not even just looking at the ingredient panel, now we're looking at something farther than that. Where is it being sourced from? Yeah. And we've already talked a little bit about sourcing, but it's not just ingredient panel. Where is it being sourced from? Because there's foods that people bring me in, they're like, hey, what about this food? And I look at it, I'm like, okay, like not bad ingredient panel. Then I look where they get it from. And I'm like, don't go with this food. Because they can't tell you where they're getting it from. They just say from the United States or from
a broker,
or from another continent, or whatever it is. And they won't tell you the country because there's multiple places. Or they won't say the state. When it says USA, they won't tell you the state because there's multiple places. And these foods are costing $250 every 2 weeks to ship to your house. Yeah. And I'm like, it's terrible. But we're going to move on from ingredient panel now. And we're going to move on to types of food. Yeah. All right. The main 3 types of food, you can correct me if I'm wrong if there's any more, but raw, gently cooked, and kibble.
Freeze dried. I don't know if you.
Well, freeze dried's raw mainly. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, most freeze drieds are raw, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part, we'll classify that as
it's easier because they call it raw because they freeze dry it at the raw state.
Right. Yeah.
So call it what you will.
Yeah, and so we'll classify that as raw because it's better than a lot of stuff. I'll tell you that much. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at that, obviously, in every food we bring in, right, is I mean, you've heard this from my dad, me, and Corey. If the retailer won't look at, not the retailer, the rep won't look at us and say raw is still the best way to feed. If it's not a raw company, if it's a kibble company, if they'll say, oh no, my kibble's way better, we don't bring them in. Simply based on relationship at that point. But their kibble may be fantastic, but if their thought process behind that company is my food is the best way to feed, it's not correct, right? Yeah. And that was what was the first thing my dad asked you when you came into the store? Yeah. What do you think the best way to feed is? He asked Jeff this too, and both y'all gave the same answer: raw. Yeah. But you also can do other things to benefit the dog in a better way. So then we add in kibble, right? A kibble like that's alkaline, like Canine Caviar. Yeah. A kibble that's very well sourced, like Nutrisource. Something like that. That's a good kibble that can, what's the best word for it? Benefit the dog. And then people have kind of gone away from that. Oh, I don't want to pay the money for raw, but I want to pay more than kibble. And like, why do you want to pay more than kibble? And so we look at it freshly cooked. That just came out, right? Within the last couple of years, freshly cooked came out, and there's a couple of good companies with it. I like Stella's a lot with their freshly cooked. I think it's what Fresh Made or whatever it's called.
Sure.
Their stuff so far has given us good results. The Open Farm freshly cooked has given us good results. But then there's also a bad side to freshly cooked too.
There's bad sides to all of it.
Exactly. And same thing even with raw. There's bad sides to raw too.
100%.
People will go and do their own raw by themselves and not be getting the dog what it needs.
Man, people that do their own diets, man. I mean,
they got to do research.
You're flirting with a design. I would tell you that I've probably met. I've been in the business since 2006. And I've probably met maybe 3 people that know how to make their own dog food correctly.
Yep.
And I've seen, as a retailer, which I'm sure you've seen it, I've seen the worst case scenarios of people
absolutely
that do this chicken and rice diet because they read it on Google.
Or their vet told them, oh, your dog's got IBS and you need to do chicken and rice for the next 4 years. And
like, that's so bad.
It's one of those things where, again, we were just talking about this with the grains, is rice can be a good thing if sourced correctly, just like everything else can be, right?
If they're giving it a whole form, it's better,
right?
You know, so it's not cooked,
right?
To nothing.
Exactly. And so when we're looking at that can always be one thing. But raw, let's just talk about commercial raw. Commercial raw. The correct percentage of raw should be anywhere from 80-20 to 90-10, correct? Or 95-5, somewhere in that area. Meat should be anywhere from 80 to 95%, correct?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, that you definitely want to be in the 9s.
The new studies and all that have made it okay for 80%, and dogs have done very well on it.
Because dogs can live as a vegetarian just like people. So I mean,
there's vegetarian diets.
If they're balancing, if they're at 80, right, and they're balancing it correctly,
right. Not too much sugary foods and things like that.
If they're doing the right stuff, right. I mean, without like, you know, I know we have that bag of Synergy or whatever, but that's essentially what you're trying to get to. Is you're trying to make sure you have everything in there to balance that dog that it needs. We don't need to add, and you know Jeff, but Jeff wouldn't add one more vegetable that's not needed.
Exactly.
Right? It has to be 100% balanced. So that type of mindset. I mean, if they're doing it right, they can do 80. But if they don't know what the correct balance is, they need to go a little bit higher.
Right.
If they're not buying a vitamin supplement.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I prefer 90-10 with my dogs.
Yeah. I like that.
90-10. I do 90% meat of that, obviously, and then 10% some kind of either supplements or veggies and fruits and things like that. I do a lot of low sugars when I make my own raw.
Beets are good.
Beets are great. Carrots are great. Dogs love carrots for some reason. It's just one of those things that people go away from that. They do a lot of high sugar diets.
They put in what they know.
Yeah, exactly.
Opposed to
what's okay. Okay, blueberries are okay, but when we're looking at that high sugar content, right? Small amounts of blueberries are okay. But then you want to add in something like kelp or
cooked blueberries.
Right. Yeah. You want to add in something like kelp and things like that in there to supplement the same veggies and fruits without all that sugar in it, right? Yeah. So raw, and we've talked about this before, it can be very acidic depending on what meat you're using and things like that.
Well, it's all acidic once you get it, unless you're killing the animal, right? So, but yeah, when you talk about beef and pork opposed to
duck and
chicken and duck and salmon and all this other stuff, farm raised fish is just as acidic as beef and pork and all that anyway.
Right.
So, but yeah, the less. If you can stick to the lambs and the turkeys and the ducks and the buffaloes, those are much less acidic meats. Oh yeah, all those venison family,
right?
So but yeah, man. I mean, raw. I've always been a fan of it because when raw was first introduced to me, and the concept was, it just blew me away because I'm like, this isn't kibble. Mm-hmm. Right, because it was
a fad there for a little while.
Weird,
right?
Yeah, it was weird when it first got launched, and then I had to go and understand it, and I was under the mindset that this is what they would be eating in the wild, and I bought into that for a long time, and but they're not going to be eating out of a freezer, so
But not only that, is they also add fruits and veggies in there that they're not going to be eaten in the wild either.
Yeah, well, that's it for the balance, right? And then you got to look at and the only issue I have with raw today, it has nothing to do, because we can talk alkaline nutrition, but we got to talk nutrition first,
right? And that's where
and nutrition is key. So if you can get a whole ingredient that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
However, when we talk commercial raw, we talk about high pressure processing.
Yep.
That kills the meat. And then and what people this is my thing with passionate raw feeders, right? When they don't want to hear the truth. The truth is this: if you're feeding an HPP, high pressure processing raw food, what's the difference in that and kibble? You want the final outcome to be the
not much
something that you freeze and overpay for,
right?
Or do you want kibble? Right now, when I say kibble, I'm talking about kibble like Canine Caviar, or
a high value kibble,
high value kibble with minimal synthetics,
right?
If all, or if any, so,
right?
Because now raw has synthetics in it because because it gets the molecular structure of the meat gets destroyed.
Right.
And now you have to rebalance it.
Right. And the biggest thing I see with raw versus kibble, I mean, it's going to go. It's more moist. Obviously, you're supposed to moisten your kibble regardless, but more moist naturally than something like kibble is. And then a lot of times muscle structure. Yeah. And it's just simply because obviously most of the time there's more protein content in raw, right? That's the biggest difference in my opinion with raw. Than kibble. I mean, I don't care about. Obviously, I care about the process of how it goes through. That's why we carry very few raw brands because there's a lot of raw brands out there, and we carry. I think there's like 8 of them we carry.
Well, as a retailer, right, you're catering to 1%,
right?
And that you're talking about as soon as you plug in that freezer, now you're talking about margin.
Yep.
Right, and your margin's getting eaten up with an electric bill.
Yep.
And a lot of business owners don't even look at that, and I'm like, when you talk, I mean, look, I will always go to bat for raw, but you got to be real with, how much it costs you to have freezers in the store.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're talking nutrition side of that too, it's more expensive than kibble. By pound of food, it's more expensive. But again, there's not very many kibbles that can even come close to comparing.
And that's the truth. And less is more, man.
Right.
And so. When it's all said and done, man, well, my dog looks better on raw. Of course it does. You were just feeding a kibble that had 75 ingredients.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's not, if you went to a kibble that had, I'm sorry, I don't know enough. I haven't memorized everybody else's brands. I hate to go back to Canine Caviar because.
No, go ahead.
But like 31 total ingredients, right? We have, right? Regardless if we're alkaline or anything, you're automatically going to look better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I mean,
but even from that, you look at certain raw companies, and off the top of my head, I can't remember how many ingredients they have, but there's certain ones that we have in a certain part of our store, 6 to a dozen ingredients, and you're like, okay, even with something like Canine Caviar, which in my opinion, that and a couple other companies in our store are the best kibbles in the world.
Yeah.
When you're looking at that, even 31 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
you're gonna look better,
right? And on top of the moisture, right? And so that's one thing that
moisture's key, man.
That Jeff actually taught me and my dad was moisten the food. And we're gonna talk about kibble, and we'll go back to gently cooked. I want to talk about that one last. We'll talk about kibble for a second.
Yeah.
Nobody that comes into training with me moistens their freaking kibble.
It's an extra step, and they're never trained that way, right?
It's not even the extra step part. They're never told that that's correct. Vets don't tell people that. I told my vet that. She was like, "Why?" And again, this vet has seen dozens of thousands of dogs. She's seen dozens of thousands of dogs, and so when we're looking at that, why do you moisten your kibble? Well, explain exactly what you told me.
So this is the deal, and I didn't know this until I made kibble.
Oh, really?
So this was, I found a lot of behind the scenes stuff out. So basically, the dog / the consumer's dollar, right? If you don't moisten the kibble, you only get 60% of the nutritional value.
Right. That analysis on the back of the bag.
Analysis, right? And then the bigger the breed, the more probability of bloat.
Right.
Right. So you want to pre-puff the kibble, and anybody can do this. If they just take even just with water. But if you get the acid that the dogs have, you can really see it work. But you take a kibble, you just drop it in water and watch it puff.
Do a Sprite. I did it with Sprite.
Yeah, very very bubbly. So you get that pre-puff, and so then you get more nutrition, and then the dog gets 99%. It's just like when you boil your vegetables, you should have the broth. Yeah, right. It's the same concept.
But that's why they make bone broth and stuff. A lot of these companies make bone broth.
So you pre-puff it and all that other stuff. I just want to make sure I pre-puff the kibble. stuff.
And guaranteed analysis. That's what
Guaranteed analysis.
But that's why you moisten it, right?
Yeah. You moisten it. Dog needs more hydration. Right. You get more value for your dollar. You lower the probability of bloat tremendously.
Right.
And kibble takes 4 to 6 hours to digest, right? So, and why we say 4 to 6? Because it depends on how the kibble's cooked, right? So you have a slow cook like we are. You're on more of the 4 hour
and
mark.
Lower cook temperature, right?
Lower cook temperature, and then on your higher ones, right? Your groceries, it's going to take about 6 hours, right? So, but if you moisten it and you pre-puff it, it's within the hour. Yep. So, and that's the other benefit of like raw and all these other things is they digest instantly. That's why you should mix them, right? Because you have a kibble that's taking 4 to 6 hours, and then you're putting something on there that digests.
And not only that, your dog's pooping double because you're like, my dog just pooped. I don't know why it just pooped in the house 30 minutes later.
So, but that's why you want to moisten the kibble. And, you're just looking at getting extra nutrition into the dogs.
So, only other question I have about kibble. There's this big push by, I believe it's Farmer's Dog. With that Cheetos commercial. You know what I'm talking about? The high extruded heat. All right. When you're looking at high extruded heat, baked kibbles versus steamed kibbles versus slow cooked kibbles and things like that. Right. And then extruded, right? Yeah. They classify all kibble as high extruded heat.
Right.
But if you look at high extruded heat, from the website I looked at, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it said high extruded heat is above 450.
Sure.
Something like that. And it's cooked at a very fast pace, right? And because it's drying it out, but it's also.
I mean, at that high heat, it's not going to be cooking for long,
right?
And that's where we want to tie in the ingredient look, which we'll get into about the cooking. So, when they tell you that we cook it for 6 seconds, like I say, we cook it for 6 seconds at X amount of degrees, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter what I say the degrees is. It doesn't matter how long I cook the food.
Right.
You'll know all this by the ingredient panel. How many synthetics are in there? They're not adding synthetics in there because they look cute. They're adding them in there because they cooked them out.
Right.
And those dogs need that. And you just saw a Purina Pro Plan vet food got recalled for too much vitamin D, right?
Yep.
Well, what happened was the computer, I'm sure, glitched.
Right.
It was an accident. Obviously, Purina's not doing that on purpose.
Right.
Right. So. But it glitched, and that tells you the proof right there. If they put too much vitamins and minerals in it, then the dog could die, right? So that's how you know if the kibble's telling the truth.
Yep.
And same thing with raws and everything like that. They can tell you anything, but what is the facts? The facts is in that ingredient panel. You read it from the bottom up, and by the time you get to the top, you ask yourself, how much of that chicken do I really have? Right, and that's why. The smoke and mirror thing with these consumers. Oh, well, what's the first 5 ingredients? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It matters go from the bottom up. That's what I always tell people.
Bottom up.
And so I tell people if your ingredient panel looks like a paragraph of a book, it's probably not the best.
Nah.
But if it looks like even half a paragraph, then you're on the right track, right? And again, and that's where that high extruded heat comes in. That things like Farmer's Dog are saying, well. They're cooking everything out, and this, that,
yeah. What's the marketing? They're trying to sell dog food.
Right, and this leads me into the freshly cooked thing. It's still cooked.
It's still cooked.
It's still cooked. A lot of times it's boiled, correct?
I don't
different
know
places,
about
obviously.
I don't know enough about the general cook to know about the processing, right? So I can only.
I know one company. I don't know how about all of them. I know one company is boiled, and that's how they gently cook their food.
Right.
Or I say boiled. It's like steamed, basically.
Steamed,
but it looks like something you can eat.
Yeah.
When you're mushing the carrots and stuff. It's mushy.
It's real food. It's just not you can't say human grade anymore, right? So, but I promise you, they're not putting grade A chicken in that stuff. So, they're probably putting B or C, but definitely, I doubt they're going to put D in there. But they're going to try to buy as much B as they can.
Right.
But if you're putting grade A chicken in something, then your dog food's extremely expensive. Because Chick-fil-A is a grade A chicken company, right? So they're going to buy as much as that. Plus, every grade A meat that's what goes to a grocery store. Mm-hmm. So the last thing it's going to go to is dog food.
Yeah, exactly. And with the gently cooked, I've seen good results on certain ones, and I've seen terrible results on certain ones.
So, we can say that about raw,
kibble, raw, everything. And so it's so new that I wanted to see what your opinion on it was. It's just so new.
I think it's a great aspect, and I think it's the future. Honestly, I think it will overtake raw sales.
I think so too
in the future because people feel safer because they don't understand bacteria, and what they do understand bacteria on is raw meat, right? Mm-hmm. So they're under the mindset that the probability of bacteria in raw is greater than kibble.
Right.
But they all get recalled for bacteria if it all reaches over 33%. Right. So it has to be under 33%. And that's why I always say don't ever leave your scoop in the bag, especially if you have a bad immune system and stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
So we can sit there and debate all about bacteria, but that doesn't say that the gently cooked doesn't have it, because you have to have it,
right?
Like you can't get away from it,
right?
So as far, again, man, my personal opinion is that it doesn't matter. How's the dog reacting once, because again, we can go back. This is where the nutrition to alkaline nutrition goes to, right? Mm-hmm. Nutritionally speaking, I think it's great. When we talk about alkaline nutrition, they have a higher probability of being more alkaline or pH balanced with the gently cooked than they will with the raw.
Right.
Okay. Now that being said, if it's reacting into how is it working with the organs and the bloodstream and where are we at on that, and
I think we'll find that out in a few years, because gently cooked, I mean, from what I know of it, again, it's fairly new, especially with the boutique companies. It's fairly new. Yeah. Obviously, with the boutique companies, it's going to be a little bit healthier naturally than something like you can get at PetSmart or Walmart. But it's one of those things where it's to each their own on that. I really just I like talking the raw versus kibble debate on it. I like talking the raw versus kibble debate because too many people either don't know about raw or they don't know enough about the kibble process of it. Yeah. In both directions, good and bad, right? Again, higher cooked foods, you're going to have more sugar in them naturally because the natural sugar's in it. You're going to have less vitamins in it naturally because you cooked them all out, so you have to add synthetics in it. And so that's where I look at when I'm looking at dog food, just how many times has this company got recalled for having too many synthetics in the food?
That's it.
And then back in the day, 10 years ago, actually like 5 years ago, a couple of the companies that we were very fond of really just they had the same thing. They had the exact same thing. Oh, well, it was just because we had too many vitamins in the food. And we're like, and they made it sound like a good thing. And all these new, like these places like us, even all the boutique stores, all the brick and mortars, like, oh, okay, because that's what we were led to believe. And then more facts start coming out, and it's because you cook your kibble too high that you have to add those things in. And so we're looking at that.
And you go back to sourcing, where those coming from, where synthetics come from.
Exactly. It's a big debate with that, but like I said, I just wanted to ask that opinion versus that.
I think, it's just all on how you're doing. I mean,
what you're doing and what kind of dog you have, what you're doing with your dog. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
I think the main thing is most people know that they don't understand their dog at all and their nutritional needs.
Right.
Thank you.
And they come to people like us.
They come to people like you. And then the unfortunate thing about coming to people like you is that they've been burnt before, right? Mm-hmm. And that sometimes people feel sold and all this other stuff. But bottom line is they're looking for results. And this is what I keep telling people all the time. Like, we can sit here and debate what is this and what's that, blah, blah, blah. If they feed Canine Caviar and their dog has diarrhea all over the place, they think ours is the worst food they've ever fed, right? Same thing with raw, same thing with gently cooked, right? So if they get great results off of Beneful, all of a sudden Beneful's the best food they've ever fed, right? So, again, it's all dog by dog, but as nutritional people, right, we have to go on probability,
right?
Probability says that these dogs are going to live longer, they're going to have less vet bills and all this on this and that. So I think gently cook's the future, and I think the consumer wants to see the food nowadays, and I think transparency, because they can't see kibble and what's in kibble, so they therefore, especially with Google, and then you got certain people that I won't name that are claiming things about kibble that they don't know anything about. Right. And I'm not disagreeing with what they're saying, but that's not all kibble.
Right, it's certain kibble.
It's certain kibble.
But they don't. That's the thing is with the way the laws and everything are formed for commercials and things like that, they don't have to say, oh, it's only this amount of kibbles that are like this. They can just say kibble in general. And that's what's turning consumers away from kibble nowadays is what I see. We're selling more gently cooked than we ever have.
Yeah.
Than the broths and everything than we ever have. We're selling more gently cooked right now because of a different company that we don't even carry commercial.
Yeah.
But when you look at it again, you're looking at the higher probability of having good results on better kibbles,
right.
better gently cooked, better raw.
Yeah.
But if they go in, they see, oh, well, don't feed these brands to your dogs, or don't feed kibble to your dog, don't feed raw to your dog. They're going to come in, and then they're going to have a great experience on one of the foods we recommend, and then they're going to think, oh, the other two were bad.
Right.
It's one of those things.
But that's the reason why you're successful, right? What's Up Dog is a very successful 2-store family operation. I think you guys are meant to be 3, 5 to 7, stores in the future. I think you guys have a great business model, and you are one of the few owners and team and families that get it, right? Not only do you get nutrition, but you get the business, and the benefit that you guys have over everybody is your trainers,
right?
And I don't know if you and your brother breed, but your dad breeds, so
I do. I breed the Dutch Shepherds and the Malinois.
Oh, so perfect. Yeah. So I mean, you guys have pretty much every experience besides veterinary experience, right?
Yeah.
In the industry, and not only have you fed stuff as breeders, not only have you sold stuff as retailers, not only have you seen results training, right? So you can, you guys just have an up on all that. So, but yeah, man, I mean, honestly, I just think that overall, if you're feeding the right stuff and you're spending the money, then you're going to get the right product, but you can't get suckered into marketing. You got to get suckered into facts.
Exactly. And I wouldn't even say spending the money. Like I said, there's more foods than not nowadays that are more expensive than even our boutique foods, where 10 years ago it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Wild Calling was the most expensive food on the market at one point at $70 a bag.
Yeah.
I think it was $72.99 is what we had
Something
it for.
Like
and we were upping margins on it. $72.99 was the most expensive we ever sold that bag for. When you're looking at that,
people
now,
would love a $70.
I know, especially for what's in something like Wild Calling, right?
Yeah.
But I think back in the day, I think Nutrisource was like $42 a bag.
Yeah. Now it's $80.
If you're buying something for $42 a bag, you're lucky if it's something good. There's some good ones, like Ultimates just came out with the line. I think actually at the Phillips show when we were last there.
I'm not familiar with it.
I'm not super familiar. We brought it in. So far it's doing good. All I can say is that at least it's doing good for the dogs.
The cool thing that you guys have here, especially at this location, is you almost have that good, better, best model. Which is good. So, if you're leaving out of here and you're not selling a bag of dog food in somebody's price range, you're making money on the training or whatever, but you're losing
extra little.
You're losing that kibble. You're losing
the raw.
You're giving them the probability of buying their food somewhere else and not gaining that long-term business, man. But
and let's talk about what I want to do now is, and let's move off of just kibble versus non-kibble and things like that. Let's talk about, and it doesn't necessarily need to be raw or kibble versus this, but alkaline just versus non-alkaline in general. All right, okay. So I'll tell you my experience on it, and I obviously jumped into doing the Canine Caviar years ago now when we first brought it in. I wanted to try it with my dog. My dog was a little bit of an anomaly, and I've seen it here and there, and we've talked about this. It makes the dog to the correct pH balance, correct? Alkalinity does
neutral,
right. Neutral pH balance. Yeah. Well, in that, it increases metabolism sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Dutch Shepherd, and so it increased her metabolism so much it was rough for a couple months. And I had to feed her fattier food. Well, most of the Canine Caviar, I believe, 16 or 18% or whatever it is. So very low-fat food. With her, how active she was, I didn't do it. Again, we're going to talk about alkalinity and everything. Couldn't tell you another food that she had a better coat on. I take it back. As far as coat goes, Element, Canine Caviar. As far as shedding goes, Canine Caviar takes the cake with it because. And you can touch more on the alkalinity portion of the skin and everything and the organs. But the skin is an organ. Shedding comes from all kinds of different things, but the primary source of it is skin, right? Skin health. Her skin health is the best.
Microbiome, right?
Right, yeah. And so when we're looking at that, it's like, whoa, I have a shepherd that doesn't freaking shed. And if she does, obviously she blows her coat twice a year.
Right.
But even when she blows her coat, I can literally brush her without it flinging and going crazy everywhere. I know you have a lab, and they're notorious for shedding as well.
Man. It's such a dramatic difference.
Yeah, and so when we're looking at alkalinity too, I'm looking at health of a dog. I put Doodles on it. I used to push Doodles to Signature because of the sunflower seed oil and all that different stuff in it. Great food for Doodles because it's soft, everything like that. But alkalinity is really important in every living being.
It's marketed with other products, hair products, water.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not marketed with food. Except for in the dog food industry by one company. Yeah, and that's y'all. But when I heard about it, I was like, oh, whatever. Like, let me just try it. My dog never looked better except for the weight.
Yeah.
But guess what? She put back on that weight just fine, and she's gonna be on special needs the rest of her life because she's older now.
Yeah.
My younger one is not even 7 months old, and she's been on the Canine Caviar now for a week, and she has not looked better as far as skin, coat, just
Don't
mind.
Tell people it turns around in a week, bro. They're gonna expect
stuff. But I will say she went from another great kibble to this, so she had a stepping stone. It's not gonna be something like you just said, like going from an IAMS or a gravy train or something like that. You're gonna wait a little while because it's gonna have to flush it out. And I gave you this example last night, and then I'm gonna let you take it away. A dog that I have for training, she's done basic obedience with me and then personal protection with me. Amazing dog. I put her on Canine Caviar special needs. She was chunky, let's just say that. She was on food that I disagreed with the guy on since the day she came in when she was 16 weeks old. And had a lot of brewer yeast, a lot of corn, wheat, soy, all kinds of crazy crap in there. A lot of byproduct meal that they don't label and things like that. And the dog was fat and put her on special needs. Well, what I realized even with my dog, my older one, was that the fats that she had were probably just really bad fats for her because there's good and bad fats, obviously. Yeah. And what I think it was doing was not just speeding up the metabolism, but getting rid of those bad fats. And that's what it did for this dog. It got rid of those bad fats, and once she pretty much went down to where you could see 1 or 2 ribs, she started putting on back that weight, but then didn't put back on that fat. It was a leaner fat. It wasn't as thick. It wasn't as like squishy, I guess is the word. Yeah. I completely, with especially that dog, completely and utterly say that was because of the alkalinity in the food. Yeah. It kills the bad stuff, right? And then it brings out what's best in the dog. That dog doesn't freaking shed anymore. The first two weeks it was on the Canine Caviar, it blew its entire coat. In the middle of a season, it shouldn't have blown its coat. And it was because it had so much dead fur. He was brushing her, and gray was coming off on this jet black dog because it was all of its undercoat was like dead. And so it was blowing so much of its coat, and now the dog doesn't shed anymore. Crazy. It's nuts. So talking about the alkalinity and what it does for, I mean, just in general, but mainly for dogs, versus something even like raw. Obviously, like I said, raw is a very good way to feed. I supplement 100%. Raw all the time. But even to something like raw or gently cooked or even just normal kibbles, even something like Element, which I consider to be the second best food in the world. Yeah. And obviously it's subjective, but I consider it to be second best food in the world behind Canine Caviar. Yeah. And again, I feed it to my dogs. So even to something like Element, which is a very high quality food, or even the old Wild Calling, compare alkalinity versus that.
Well, man, I mean, I want to start off simple and then we'll get technical, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody understands a fish tank. We've all had fish in our life at some point, right? And that has to be a neutral pH level in that tank, right? Or stuff grows on the fish, right? Which then you
get ick and all kinds of.
You get all that stuff, right? Then you gotta alkaline the water. You gotta do the whole thing. You know? Yep. And same thing with dogs, right? So your dog essentially is a fish bowl, and the organs are the fish. So if that pH is off in that system, I don't want to be dramatic and say the dog will die, but the thing is like you will have things grow on those organs, right? And you will have those organs fail at some point, younger than they should, right? So,
And again, genetics play a big part in that too.
Yeah, with genetics, the
absolutely.
whole thing. Again, and that goes back to your original statement, which is a good genetic dog and good dog food. I mean, you're gonna
live longer.
Unbelievable results.
Right.
So and not saying that Canine Caviar is gonna prevent or cure anything because that's illegal.
Right.
But I always try to shelve people to do their own education on alkaline science. Google Scholar. Google is a search engine, so you'll find anybody agree with you or disagree with you on every subject. So if you go to Google Scholar, you get to see all the collegiate studies.
Absolutely.
Really everything that's ever been studied. So, but what we do at Canine Caviar, and I was introduced to these guys when I was in retail, and I didn't really know anything about it other than it was a strict limited ingredient diet, which I've always been a fan of.
Right.
Very simple ingredients, and along with the other products they used to come out with. I've always been a fan of Canine Caviar, but never understood it.
Right.
So I met Jeff a while ago, and after about a year or so of talking, I finally decided I'll sell dog food, and because I don't agree with this one, and I guess I have a mindset of if you're going to sell something, that's what you believe in, and
right?
That's
right. Absolutely.
If you're going to get behind it, and. It didn't take me long, man, to understand that, wow, this kibble is different. This is reacting different. The people that we talked to, like when we were shut down during COVID and we would talk to, the consumers would call in and everything. Man, just the stories are just different. We're not talking about skin coat poop. We're talking about my dog was dying. My dog had limited time limits and stuff like that. And they're claiming that we saved their dog's life or we gave them more years or more months or whatever the case was. Very dramatic story. So the more I've been here, the more I've talked to Jeff, who I consider, probably the smartest dude in this industry when it comes down to nutrition. And it's not anything about skin and coat, which is the least of his worries. It's all about the blood. Right. How the organs are functioning and how do we preserve them.
What does that affect? Everything,
right? So, by time the body looks like garbage on the outside, the inside is destroyed. Right? So, so what alkaline nutrition does, and we're alkalizing, right? So because people get too scared when you say alkaline because there's a 1 through 14 scale.
But alkalizing.
So we shoot for neutral pH is what we do. So all of Canine Caviar's dog foods are 7.1 to 7.4 with the exception of the special needs, which runs a 7.5 to 8.0. So what that does is it works what we call cellular regeneration, which is anti-aging.
So hold on, I'm gonna pause you on that. Yeah. So I had my 9-year-old was on. Oh goodness, well actually no, I'm not gonna mention their brand because they just got bought out. But she was on a food and. Yeah, this is actually the 5th food of that we were talking earlier that I didn't mention. And that's she was on it for 2 bags. And before that, she had no gray on her muzzle almost at all. She had a little bit on her chin, and that's about it. And within 2 months, 2 bags, she had developed a lot of gray. And I was very dissatisfied with and I completely put it down to that food. And I went back on Canine Caviar, and within a month, and you saw the pictures of that too. Within a month, the dog had lost its gray on its chin and went all the way back up to where right under its teeth where the gray was. And then now she's 9. That was a year ago that happened. Now she's 9, and so she actually has natural gray again. But it's anti-aging. It's incredible stuff when it comes to anti-aging with dogs. It's incredible, but go ahead with the cell regeneration.
Yeah, so anti-aging, right? So what does that really mean? What we do is you die because your organs fail.
Right.
Period. So if we can preserve those organs, then the dogs will live and function a lot longer with less problems.
Right.
So every organ, right, has a pH balance into it, and they're all different. How we kind of get, like, if you can afford to get a blood test to see what the pH level is, I mean, that's what we're really looking for. But a basic way of doing it to get you a general area is the pH test kit, right? So if you can catch your dog's urine, that's the best.
Yeah,
but you can test its mouth. You can, and if it's the only dog, you can dab it in the grass or the ground or whatever. And you'll see it within minutes that where your dog is.
And you guys give pH strips, so anybody who wants to try that, we have them.
Yeah, so. So that gives it, because everything cycles through the organs and then is exposed to the urine. That's why we do it that way. So you can get a generalized where you're at, and you don't want to do it every day. You want to do it every week. So we like to do Saturdays, because we're all home and then we can function. And so if for whatever reason that the dog is running, low, which my dogs never do, but if it ever is, I mean, we give a lot of watermelon and mango to our dogs.
Yeah, very alkaline.
Yeah,
fruits.
So it's super alkaline. So we eat those, and then of course when it comes down to certain human foods, those are the ones that we highly recommend. I recommend. I shouldn't say Canine Caviar. Recommend. So, but that's what that does, and that cellular regeneration. So if they're running too low, you give them that. If they're running too high, like if they get over an 8, right? Because being above an 8 is just as bad as being below a 7, right? Yeah. So, in the sense of urinary pH, for dogs. So you kind of, I wouldn't say beef and pork, but if you give beef and pork, then it'll make them very acidic,
right?
And it can bring them back down. But I would probably just give them a little snack of something that'll bring them down a little bit. But yeah, so it goes in there, balances the bloodstream, makes all the organs function, does the cellular regeneration thing to slow down the aging, and then the special needs is the most special kibble. So we don't make any beef or pork products,
right?
And Canine Caviar. Before I get into the special needs, Canine Caviar only believes in single meat, protein for dogs, right? Because again, what does a wolf eat? He never eats 20 things at one time ever. Right. So you overwork the pancreas at that point. So again, this is the only food I ever felt like. This is the only company I ever really truly felt goes after the organ health.
Absolutely.
So, single proteins, single starches. We use pearl millet in some of them because pearl millet's a really good source. It's not GMO'd at this time, and that is found in a lot of the stomachs of the animals that wolves kill and eat.
Right.
So that's why we use the pearl millet, and we can get it in bulk. I mean, if you can't get it in bulk, you can't make it. So, and then we just changed over everything 2 years ago now to everything over the quinoa. For the when the whole DCM thing is minus our buffalo, which I'll get into that.
Grain free.
But color grain and grain, and they're all seeds, man.
Exactly.
I've heard it so many times in this industry.
I
remember when quinoa was a grain in ancient grain. And now they're calling it grain free. It's a seed.
No, they're back to calling it a grain.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, they're back to calling it a grain. It changes all the time.
It's a grain
because it's technically not a grain, but it technically is a grain because it depends on what country you're in. So now they have to say it's a grain because some countries still recognize it as a
whatever y'all want to call it. It's a seed to me.
Exactly.
And, it doesn't produce yeast, so
right.
Minus the alkaline stuff, which is the cherry on top for me. I mean, you don't have to worry if your dog's prone to yeast infections. This is a really good brand for that. So
right.
So why did we leave the chickpea in the buffalo, right? So when the whole DCM business started, we were switching over. People were calling in saying, hey, my dog has low phosphorus issues, and the benefit of a single source legume is high phosphorus. So,
gotcha. Okay.
We are the only single source buffalo kibble that I know of. In the United States,
I think
everybody else cuts it with lamb or fish or something like that because it's expensive.
Right. Yeah.
So
and
Canine Caviar has always put taurine in their dog food, which is that's a whole nother discussion. But taurine's always been in the dog food.
Right.
Buffalo is the highest naturally taurine meat you can eat anyway. So those people that are scared of that, it will all that will counteract anything that they're scared of. So that's why we left that. But the special needs, man,
we call it medicine.
Superstar food.
We call it medicine. This. We order by the pallet.
Yeah, yes, you do, man.
Even if we got rid of every other flavor of Canine Caviar for good, we would have to keep the special needs.
Dude, it is the most important one.
It is, and again, we call it like medicine for dogs, from puppies to seniors. We call it like medicine. That's why my senior is on it, and that's why my dad's is on it.
Right.
And speaking on special needs, I'll talk about that cloudiness in the eyes, for example.
Yeah, you're the first one that tells me about that.
Zeus and my dad's German Shepherd. He's 12 years old, and then my Dutch Shepherd's 9.5. Both of them had started to develop a little bit of cloudiness in their eyes. Zeus more than obviously Indy because she's a lot younger. But Indy had been out in the sun, on the beach, on trails, and all kinds of stuff all her life working. Didn't do a lot of rec specs or anything like that. So a lot of sun damage to her eyes. And within months of putting her on special needs, my dad was a lot quicker with Zeus. But with months of her putting on special needs, the cloudiness almost went completely away. It's actually gone now. But then with my dad, it was like days with Zeus. It's nuts. And it's, again, like you said, the anti-aging, the anti-aging and the cell regeneration, it's helping things that I didn't even think of. Eyes, ears.
Brown rice first. Who would ever think you would feed that dog food?
It's crazy. and you're looking at it and you're like, whoa. But again, people go against it because, when people were talking grain-free versus grain, my gosh. Grains are bad. Grain-free's bad. Grain-free. Neither of them are bad as long as you're using other good ingredients in it. So when you're looking at the special needs, what is it that makes it that alkaline process?
So the stuff that you can see, right? So the kelp,
right?
Coconuts, alfalfa, which is most important.
Papaya too, right?
There's papaya. There's but the main things is that, and then there's all that stuff goes in and it does its thing, and it creates a higher pH content on how he set it up. I don't know exactly how he made it that high, other than he more likely probably put a little bit more concentrate in there than the others. But you do that, so and it's the only one retail that I've ever seen come up on a vet recommended food list. They don't always push it. Right, but
some vets stay away from it.
If you get that list, I've seen it on there, and in our industry to come out and say there's a one-off or something, that's, you don't want to say that. You don't want to say that. So, but this is truly one of them, and I hate to say it, but I've seen it work for almost everything. Yeah. So the pH runs a 7.5 to 8.0, which goes in. Now I feed it with healthy dogs, right? I
fed it with
mid-age
dogs that are sick.
Just for a blood detoxifier, right? So I run through the whole rotation.
That's what I do,
and then I feed it. And yes, they do seem a little hungrier because our K-Cow is a little lower on there, even though it's pretty standard.
It's similar, it's standard.
It's $3.99, which is, there's a lot of other dog foods that are way lower.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a lot of people that are like, well, I have to feed way more. It's you're just
really.
it's compared to the other Canine Caviar, sure, or something like Element, sure, but when you're looking at something like
but the K-Cows, there's two.
Average.
Yeah, you're talking 550 average K-Cow with the other ones. So
about 400, right?
Yeah, 400. Yeah, it's $3.99, and so I mean, I've seen regular dog foods that aren't special needs at like $3.50. So but I feed it as that, but it's a literally one-off for any issue that you're absolutely
allergies and everything.
Anything, even so. And going back to allergies, how do I know my dog's acidic without a urinary test? Your dog has allergies. Your dog has allergies.
Right.
Like your dog, it's easy to say dog's allergic to chicken.
Right.
The probability of that even being real is so low.
And it can be. It can be.
Yeah. But I'm saying, is it the chicken or is it what is in the chicken?
Right.
The sourcing of the chicken. Right.
And I'll tell you this one.
And why is our chicken different?
Different. Right. Exactly. And so what I was talking about we had a Pracer Canario that we did an allergy test on. He was like severely allergic to chicken. We had no idea. Because he had been eating multi-protein foods all of his life, and so there was not enough chicken in it to affect him. But he was severely allergic to high concentrations of chicken, where he would get hot spots that would form on his elbows and his knees and things like that. That would be really bad. He'd be licking his paws, biting himself to where he would bleed. Yeah. And we found out that the food we had switched him to had a high concentration of chicken. Well, then me and my dad were sitting down. We're like, why don't we just try him on special needs and see if it works? See if it works on him. Because we've seen it work on other dogs, let's see if it works on him with a high allergy test. And it did. It worked. And I solely, and I don't think it's because of the chicken or anything. I think it's because or even where you guys get the chicken from, I think it's the alkalinity in it.
100%.
And there's other foods that claim that they have the benefits of this, that, and the other. They can't say alkalizing, obviously. But there's other foods that say they have the same ingredients, this, that, and the other. But again, Jeff is a mastermind of that stuff. He somehow, even with those foods with the similar ingredients or the same ingredients, you're not getting the same results.
Yeah.
He's whatever he does, man. He's
cooking
crazy.
process, man. He's very particular,
absolutely.
man. You know, he was the second raw line ever, and he canceled it because he doesn't like HPP. I mean, who would do that?
I know.
That's crazy. As a business person, it eats me alive to even know that he did that.
I know. He's a mad scientist, man.
Dude, his morals, I will tell you, man, you know, I'm in sales, right? So, not that I believe in lying or exaggerating the truth or anything. I will never do that to sell a product. But like,
I've seen you sell other products in our store.
yeah, hey, man, you got to have integrity. But the thing is, man, is you still got to make money. Mm-hmm. And that's the name of the game for everybody because we all have families to feed.
Absolutely.
We all have businesses to run. And nowadays, more than anything, we got to make money.
Yep.
For him to just say, I'm done and over with it because I don't believe in the process anymore it's just unbelievable. And he's made me more moral. And he's always have the dog and the consumer in his mind for every single change that he's done. Our sweet potatoes, right? That you sell a ton of or whatever. Yep. When I first started, and I'm trying to build my sales, and we sell a ton of those things.
Right.
A truck came in, and so I'm pretty sure you're familiar, but I don't know who's listening to this. But so basically, what they do is they go in and they test all the potatoes, and they go from the top, they go from the bottom, they go from the middle. Yep. They pull out 20, 30, 40 different potatoes from all around the truck.
Yep.
Test them, whatever. It came back at a 99% satisfaction rating, and Jeff rejected the shipment.
I know, I saw that.
And we were out of sweet potatoes for 3 or 4 months.
What is it, like 3 months? Yeah.
And I'm like,
we were pissed.
Dude,
we were pissed.
I'm like, he's like, man, that 1% could put us out of business.
Absolutely,
you know. And it's like,
absolutely,
who would do that though? At 99, oof, that's a tough. That's a tough decision to make. Absolutely. And I will say, and I'm not saying that all that there's business owners out there that are not for the dog, but what I'm saying is I have not met another one in this industry that would ever reject a shipment over 99%.
No, exactly.
I mean, whew.
And we'll end it with this on the alkalinity portion of things. Alkalinity is, I don't know if they say it's been proven, but there's big claims that disease cannot thrive in an alkaline environment, correct? With that, me and Jeff actually got on the phone about this. Me and you got on the phone about this. My dog had a weird colored poop, and then there was a splotch of like almost bloody tissue in it.
Yeah.
And we were so confused. Like, what is this coming from? And it was just one time. And sent the picture of it to Jeff. Jeff sent it off to his vet and everything. They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, when I showed my vet, she was like, that looks like it was like dead skin on the lining of either the intestines or the stomach.
Okay.
And when I told her what was going on and what food I was eating, she was like, most likely and she's a vet that pushes something else. And so she was like, if that's what they're claiming it does, like for the alkalinity, she goes, maybe it was taking that dead skin and trying to push it out. And ever since that day, my dog has literally acted like a whole new dog.
Interesting.
And that was a month after switching her to the special needs.
Interesting.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And looking at that, that's from different people in my life and things, giving her treats and things like that she shouldn't be having and all that different stuff. That probably caused some of that deterioration of that stomach. Right. And most likely it was regenerating that tissue in there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was remarkable, the alkaline versus non-alkaline. Just that's my key point when I'm talking to training clients is, okay, obviously price point and things like that. Some people can't afford an $80, $90 bag of dog food, $120 bag of dog food. But when you're looking at it, if they can, you're looking at really two foods that I push, right? And we've talked about this many times, but the number one I always put up there is Canine Caviar because of the alkalinity. If you want what's best overall for 90% of dogs, I put it on the alkalinity. You have to. I mean, it's one of those things where I like to push that. Like I said, we did a podcast with Square Pet. As a veterinary formulated diet, it is amazing. But you're looking at that compared to other veterinarian formulated diets. I put dogs on, and this is just going to show that I'm not particular to one brand or not. I put dogs on Canine Caviar that had stomach issues that I've seen other dogs get fixed with and didn't fix them. And then I put them on Square Pet, boom, done. Or I put them on Victor, boom, done. Or Signature, Element, whatever it is. But again, it's one of those foods that 99% of the time it never fails.
Yeah.
Because it's so good, and the benefits of it, whatever Jeff does.
Whatever he does.
I'm
sure he doesn't tell me everything.
Right. Whatever it is, he came up with the science that benefits the dog. He doesn't care how he talks to people.
Yeah.
He's obviously a very nice guy, but he's very blunt with people.
Yeah, he's a scientist, right? So
yeah,
he doesn't know anything else but data.
He's a little bit more blunt than what you're allowed to be. He is the owner. He can kind of say what he wants. But he's a little bit more blunt than even I am with people. And almost as blunt as your daughter when it comes to stuff. When talking about foods versus either Canine Caviar or even a super premium food in general, because I've talked to him about other foods too. And he's impartial about that too. Feed that food. It's good.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's all for it. And so it's one of those things where I wanted to make sure that it's not just about, you need to feed alcohol. You need to do... There's other good foods. This podcast was really about just the nutritional benefits of raw versus gently cooked versus kibble. The myths and the facts behind raw, gently cooked, and kibble, but also then let's look at the alkalinity. Let's bring in some of a lot of Bobby's knowledge with the alkalinity of Canine Caviar and kind of bring that in. And almost right on the dot, we've talked 30 minutes on each of the three things I wanted to talk about. So again, I mean, we tried this one before. Steve kept moving the mic backwards, so we didn't get too much audio on that one, so we had to redo it. And we did it a different way, which I like a lot better, the way we did it this time. Talked more nutrition than just the alkalizing benefits of dog food. But again, we talked about 20 or 30 minutes on each subject, which I really appreciate, because people want to listen. I was mentioning it in all 3 trainings today, and they're like, okay, well, whenever you post it, send us a link. Because they want to listen to nutritional things. They don't want to just hear about training.
They don't want to hear a sales pitch either.
Exactly. And that's a thing. And just like the people you just talked to, and they're like, wait, and they see the logo on your shirt. When we were out there and we were walking away, I thought he worked for Canine Caviar. And I'm like, well, yeah, he does, but he's going to tell you what's best for your price point, but also what's a good dog food. He's going to tell you right now that dog food you're on is not very good. It's just one of those things that we're very blunt when it comes to this industry, and if you're not blunt, then you're kind of beating around the bush, or you sound like a salesman. Last thing, where can we find you guys on social medias and website?
We're on everything. We have a great young lady, Kim. I mean, she's out there pumping social media.
She only reposts half my stuff though, so we need to talk about her about that.
You can email her. She's since we've gotten her, man. I see us on Instagram.
Y'all are big on Instagram.
I don't know if she's doing TikTok or anything like that yet, but Facebook. I mean, we just put out a couple stuff that we recorded at our national sales meeting. Okay, it's on YouTube. It gives a little. I think she puts them on Instagram and stuff too, but yeah, it just gives a little bit more of a little 30-second segments of this, that, and the other. And, cool. And again, about nutrition and stuff.
Right. And Jeff has some stuff on YouTube, correct?
Yeah. So my favorite thing that he ever did, which he hates doing, but I think we need more of Jeff.
Talks in front of the camera.
Yeah. It's called Canine Caviar Presentation, and it's older, but it really, for me, okay, just like you, right? You're super knowledgeable, Steve. You guys are way above average. But somebody who knows a lot about food in the behind the scenes of it, when I first listened to that, I was like, whoa. Yeah. I don't know anything.
Get past the first 5 minutes.
You gotta get
past the first 5 minutes and you're good.
Yeah, and you really only need 15-20 minutes of it. But like, if you're really into this nutrition, man, this is the whole thing. But so
it's called Canine Caviar Presentation.
It's on YouTube, right? On YouTube. It's the one with Jeff talking. You gotta turn it up because he talks soft. Yeah. But I'm telling you, man, as far as somebody who I feel like I carry a lot of knowledge with me, everything that I knew was kind of thrown out the window when I listened to it, and I had to take the opposite effect. But this company, this is one of the few brands out there that I can honestly say you can trust. Yep. Not only can you trust the results of the food, but you can actually trust this company to do the exact right things. And Jeff will end this company today if he's forced to do something in dog food that will destroy these dogs. Yep. He will end Canine Caviar in a second because he's already done it with the raw. So
absolutely. He'll figure out something else. I mean,
he'll figure out something. I think the future is that gently cooked, and I'm trying to figure out a bunch of ideas on how we can do it, but but again, you start flirting with preservatives and all this, and that can affect the alkalinity. So that's
and that's where I like the frozen gently cooked, and that's a whole nother thing. There's frozen versus refrigerated gently cooked. The frozen ones are obviously better because there's not as many preservatives in them. But it's one of those things where, again, Jeff is very knowledgeable, so when you're looking at that Canine Caviar presentations on YouTube, I believe it's just at Canine Caviar and everything else.
I mean, our website...
Canine is spelled out like C-A-N-I-N-E, not K and the number 9. It's C-A-N-I-N-E.
And our website, man...
CanineCaviar.com, right?
Yeah, CanineCaviar.com. They just they redid it a few months back, and it's really good.
It looks really nice.
It's way better. We're evolving as we're getting busier. Yep. We're going to need to catch up with times, and
we need to catch up with our damn pallet orders.
That's where we're at.
I'd rather a company be behind on pallet orders though than be able to stock an entire shelf.
What the deal is, right? We have people in between that affect all that, but the bottom line is this, right? It's a double-edged sword. Like when the distributor runs out of something, that means we're selling it. Right. But
then you're out of it.
But then we're out of it, right? So and then you guys are exploding with it. So it's you're messing my whole Florida business up. I know. And
hey, I'm all for it though.
Hey man, listen. As long as I get to sell, I'm cool. But at the end of the day, man, it's a domino effect. We're growing, which means every time I open up a few stores or somebody else comes on, I mean, somebody gets shorted. And then we have a really good distributor that we're partnering with, and we're constantly sending in forecasts. Yep. We're constantly trying to get that right.
And they've been doing well. They have been.
I mean, listen, there's always going to be roller coasters, and the cool thing for me is if we were a big major brand that we're only growing 1% a year, that's scary. Even though that 1% is huge,
right?
But where we're growing, we're growing 50 to 80% every year.
Wow. But the proof is in the pudding. You got to look at how the dogs are looking and everything like that. So, and that's what I'm glad we touched on pretty much everything on nutrition this time. Yeah. And I'm looking to do this with more, I mean, not just dog foods, but treats and things like that. And even supplements. Like, we're talking about Nudie, doing stuff with them and trying to figure out how to get them on a podcast. Because, I mean, I like a lot of their supplements. I wish you guys freaking had supplements besides Synergy and Kelp.
Yeah, well, we tried, man. We had a bad time with packaging and the testing.
I figured,
so, we just couldn't get them out there, man. But packaging.
Maybe one day. One day.
It just they failed the packaging test. They beat the crap out of this packaging, and it just didn't hold up. It affected the treats, and we just can't risk that right now.
Absolutely.
And then
because then you have one bad product, and then your whole company looks bad. So
it's terrible.
It's one of those things. But I'm glad we touched on everything. Like I said, CanineCaviar.com, at Canine Caviar on I believe every social media. And then if you look up on YouTube, Canine Caviar presentations, it's all on there with Jeff talking about that stuff. Like Bobby said, get past the first 5 minutes and listen to 15 or 20 minutes of it, and it'll really change your perspective on at least researching what's in your dog food, what's in your food bag, and not just what's in your food bag, but how is it affecting your dog. So, thank you for coming on. This was fun. It's
the weird thing is like. I know they always say this about podcasts, but the weird thing is this is every dinner conversation that we have.
I know, it's so funny. It literally is. We talk dog food because new stuff comes out pretty much every quarter that you're in.
And you guys really help me to stay current. You know, so it's hard.
And I keep it straight with you. Hey, my dogs or my clients' dogs are not doing well in this. What's going on? And the first person Bobby always calls is Jeff. And that's one thing that I can't say about a lot of companies is the responsiveness from customer to me and to by the time I get to Jeff, it's within the day.
Well, how many CEO of your dog food companies do you have in your back pocket?
Exactly.
Right,
2,
on your
and that's
cell phone,
it.
Right?
Yeah, 2, and that's it. And there's a lot of dog food companies, even that we sell. And again, like Bobby was saying, there's very few dog foods that we get behind. That's why we only have certain brands in our store, and that's why we've weeded through the bad ones and got rid of them.
Well, I've known you guys for a while, even before I was with Canine, and you guys are just you're one of the retailers that I absolutely respect, and I'm not saying it because we're here. It's I met your brother first, and I met your dad, and got to know you
and
last year.
And 2 years ago, yeah.
And it was it's been 2 years.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Man, time is flying. But you guys are just exceptional when it comes down to nutrition, and very few retailers actually know in detail about the nutrition. So I always
and Corey loves this kind of stuff too, and he's had the same conversation with you for over many dinners and awesome, shows and stuff. So I'm excited about this podcast coming out. I think a lot of people are gonna like it. So.
I hope so. And you know, if you guys, anybody listening, if they ever need me, you know, reach out to What's Up Dog first, and then we'll link you up. You know, email, and you know, Jeff doesn't even mind joining in the conversations as well. So, but yeah, I enjoy it, and hopefully, you know, I usually try to get up here every 2 or 3 months, and if we want to touch on something different next time, let us know. But
it's always something different.
So, but no, we appreciate it, and Canine Caviar really appreciates the backing and support that What's Up Dog has for us, and. Hopefully, when things get crazy, hopefully we can get you out to California.
I know.
You can see the actual process.
I want to so bad,
and make it happen. So, but looking forward to the future, and hopefully Canine Caviar keeps climbing up and helping the dogs, most importantly.
Absolutely.
And we will in the future. Just to let you know, I know when you're anti-chicken on the special needs, we are testing a fish-based special needs. Cool. I don't think it'll be coming out this year.
Not in 2023?
I don't think it's going to come out in 2023.
Well, I guess with Jeff being how he is, probably not.
Well, you know, it's all about sourcing.
Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be the same fish as the?
I think it's going to be herring. Okay. I think it's going to be herring, and you know, we're also working on a synthetic-free kibble. And I don't want to give out all the secrets, but there's a lot coming down the line as we build.
Something to look forward to.
But
That's awesome.
The economy kind of slowed a little bit things down, but we will get there, and. You know, in the meantime, we are open for 100% questions. So if I can't answer them quickly, we will get Jeff and we'll get it all in there. So whoever's listening, appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks, Bobby, for coming on. And we'll kind of go from there, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, man.
All right.